Welcome back to the Ghost Bunny Podcast. I'm your host, Bridget Marcourt, with a brand new episode for you guys. My guests today are Corinne Vien and Sabrina Deana-Roga. Corinne and Sabrina are the hosts of the popular podcast Two Girls, One Ghost. They are bi-coastal best friends with a questionably unhealthy predilection towards all things strange, spooky, and creepy for heavily researched and listener-submitted tales of the supernatural. They do warn you, though, Two Girls, One Ghost is the most haunted podcast in America. Countless listeners have reported that listening leads to encounters with the other side. Listen at your own risk. And that's a risk I'm willing to take. Corinne and Sabrina, thank you so much for doing the show today.
Hello.
You guys are so cute.
We're so excited to be here again.
I know it's fun. I mean, it always starts off a good day when you're talking about ghosts.
Always. It's the best way to explore like anything and everything.
Truly.
Yeah.
So in your bio, it said that you guys were bi-coastal friends. Tell me about that.
Well, that I guess now is a lie. We should change that.
That's
Yeah.
old. For 7 years, we were bi-coastal because we met in Los Angeles in college. And then I moved to Boston because I'm from New England. And for 7 years, we did Two Girls, One Ghost
Across the country.
across the country.
Because last time, when we talked to you for Girls Next Level, Corinne and I were bi-coastal. But then a year ago now, I moved to New England.
Ooh, and how do you like it there?
I love it. I forgot how depressing the winter is. Just in the sense that like you're asleep at like 5 p.m. because there's no point in being awake after that. But like having the seasons is really nice. And then also being able to work together in person and not be like, sorry, what did you say? I didn't hear you. Like, was that an internet lag? Haha, 10 minutes later.
Right. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
sometimes easier. And then it's also given us the opportunity to go to places and do investigations,
Yes.
which has been so fun. And New England has so many places.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, how amazing that you guys are together now because, especially in New England, because, I mean, there are places in LA, of course, but like New England, you just think of like for a spooky season, like everything's over there.
We live right near Salem.
That's so cool.
It's very perfect. Have you been to New England?
I have. So my sister lives in Boston. And yeah, so I've been to Salem a long time ago. I went for my birthday one year. And then my sister moved to Boston, so I try to go like once a year to visit her. And I was just there recently, and I did the Morbid podcast while I was there.
So fun. Next time you're out here, we need to go to the Bridgewater Triangle, which is near the Morbid Girls. And it's known for like Bigfoot sightings and like UFOs and a whole bunch of paranormal stuff.
Yeah, so there was talks while I was there. So this was in October. There was talks when I was there of meeting up with you guys and doing a Bigfoot hunt, but it just never happened.
We need to do it again. Next time you come to the area, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
that would be
what's planning do we have to do? We just go into the woods and look for Bigfoot, right?
Have you guys done that before?
No.
No, we're not Bigfoot hunting now.
Me neither.
I'm so nervous.
I know, I suddenly got scared. I was like, I know nothing about Bigfoot hunting. What if we find him and he doesn't like me?
That would be the saddest part.
Does it have to be done at night?
No.
It can be done during the day?
I think it definitely can be done in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually know someone personally who has had a Bigfoot encounter. And she saw Bigfoot during the day. It was when she was coming home from school when she was a kid. Like running to the bus or from the bus.
So I don't know a lot about Bigfoot hunting. I would have to like ask some people who actually do that, like what the best things are. But I know there's a smell, supposedly. Like if there's a strong putrid scent, that they're probably nearby. And I know that there's like a call that we're going to have to learn.
There's a about to do it.
Try it.
There's a Bigfoot calling contest in Whitehall, New York every year. And so
the video translations are hilarious.
Oh, they're so funny. You should definitely watch it.
Oh my gosh. Well, all of us need to learn it before we go out there and we got to practice it.
We do. We'll film it and we'll post it and people will be like, what is this 90-minute video of you guys just walking through the woods going, oh.
I feel like it's so funny because we are not Bigfoot experts at all, but clearly we are obsessed with him.
But we want to go. We want to go.
Yeah.
But like honestly, any next time you're in the area, Bigfoot hunting or just doing a paranormal investigation, we're so down. And we've done quite a few places with Ash and Elena, and it's so fun. And we actually get a lot. It's so wild because it's like we haven't been to that many places to do that many paranormal investigations, but somehow we've been so lucky to have so much activity every time we go somewhere.
Yeah. And we'll talk about your experiences more too when you're on our show, because I know you've been to so many places.
Yeah. Well, one of the places that I wanted to ask you about was the Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast because we were talking about that a little bit on Morbid, and you guys went with Morbid there, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
It was so fun. Like, in the sense that I feel like paranormal investigations for us and for the Morbid Girls is always like about the house and the spirits there communicating to us what they want to get across rather than like dance monkey dance. And so it just feels like kind of like a slumber party in a spooky place. And
Yeah.
we always bring a ton of snacks. But we had some really, really incredible things happen in various parts of the house. Like the basement is known to be haunted by Eliza Borden. And then this like sinister spirit named Carl who kept calling us sluts.
Well, yeah, so the house calls him Carl. So the Lizzie Borden house made us, I mean, obviously we believe in the paranormal, but I feel like the Lizzie Borden investigation made me, at least personally, like a true believer that the paranormal can come through in investigations, and like the tools that we use are authentic
Yeah.
because we were using a variety of tools. We had S-Box, we had our dowsing rods, we had tarot and oracle decks to do certain readings, we had pendulums, we had crystals with us. We used an app called Ghost Tube. We also had the what's it called, the REM pod. Yeah, we had so many different tools with us, and everything was working the way that it should be, and all seemed to make so much sense. So it was so interesting too because there's this one app on your phone, which normally, like, you wouldn't necessarily believe in a ghost hunting app or whatever, but there's this app called GhostTube, and in every single room that we were in, it was like GhostTube, the things that were coming through perfectly aligned only with that room. So when we were in the basement, we kept hearing, like well, okay, first of all, when we arrived to the Lizzie Borden house, something happened in their booking system where they forgot that we were gonna be there. So we had
Oh.
the house by ourselves for 4 hours until we finally texted the number being like, "Is the tour guide coming?" And they were like, "Oh my god, you're in the house." So, yeah, we kinda had free reign for a little bit. And when we were in the basement, we had the tour guide with us, and she brought down one of those music boxes. Have you ever used those? The motion censored music box where it, like, has
Yeah.
okay. So we're all there and we're like sitting in this kind of like dark, dank little like living space that totally looks like where you go to like smoke weed when you're in high school with your friends
We're like host of seance. It was
or host a same.
spooky. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're all sitting down there, and that's where Eliza is said to be. And we were getting some messages from Eliza, but then we kept hearing like, shh, 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 and it was like S words, and we're like, what's going on? What's going on? And then finally it was like, "Sluts, sluts." And we kept hearing sleds downstairs, and the tour guide was like, "Oh, we call him Carl. He's kind of this like negative entity, negative presence that is totally separate from the Bordens and from their story, but exists in this house. But he mostly stays in the basement."
But he followed us up.
He did follow us upstairs at one point, but it was so wild down in the basement because the music box was going off. But even the person who was bringing us around from the tour company, she was like, "The box doesn't normally go off like this." Like, it was constant. It was like someone was standing in front of the box, just kinda, like, swaying back and forth
It was very
for, like, 10
spooky.
minutes. It's very creepy.
Wow. Yeah, I've definitely used those boxes before, and I feel like they do not go off just like that. Like something has to
Yeah.
walk by. So for it to
Yeah.
continuously go off like that, that's spooky.
It was wild. I will say the like most amazing part of that investigation was when we were up on the third floor that is said to be haunted by Eliza's children. We were like playing with the toys, and all of the responses we were getting through GhostTube were like, "Are you a friend? Play with me." And I like brought out a horse and I was playing with a horse, and it said like nay, or like it said something like it goes back and forth like based on like how I was moving it. And like it started reading Goodnight Moon with me. Like
Yeah,
it's just so active.
and very specific again, like, when we were upstairs on the 3rd floor, we never heard a lot of the things we heard on other floors and other rooms. It was all the kids talking as children do, using the words that kids would use.
Yeah.
But then after like maybe, I don't know, 45 minutes of us playing with the kids, we hear them say, it was like
To the left.
to the left by the door.
Don't go there.
Yeah, don't go there. And we're like, what? And then 30 seconds later, sluts starts coming through. So they were like warning us that Carl had made his way upstairs and found us. But it was so interesting because in some of the other rooms, like where Mr. Borden had died, we kept getting a lot of like frustrated language with just like us being women and how his head and his shoulder hurt and just stuff like that. And
Ooh.
then in the room where Mrs. Borden was killed, and there's a working theory that there was someone hiding in the closet who like jumped out and killed her. We were hearing closet, surprised, head, like hit, hurt, strangled.
That room also had a lot of like sadness. It was a heavier room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you talk about the kids, are you referring to the kids that were killed next door?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so it said that Eliza made her way over to the Borden house basement, that she stays in the basement, and that the kids are upstairs. And actually, if you ever do a tour of the Lizzie Borden house, they'll likely show
Have
you
you?
this.
Yes,
Have you?
a
Oh, you've
couple of
not?
times.
Okay. Have you seen the photo then? It was pretty recent when we went. They had recently captured this. Someone on one of the tours or on one of the investigations was using that. I can't remember the name of it. It's that piece of equipment.
camera.
Yeah, like the heat, like the thermal gun or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, like the flare or
Yeah.
flurl, depending on how they pronounce it. Yeah.
I don't know. But they were using that and they captured. It's literally, okay, on the third floor, it's a child, the backside of a child. You can see like literally their diaper trying to climb up onto the bed or one of the chairs.
It's wild.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've not
it's
seen
very
that.
wild.
Yeah.
They had just captured it when we were there. We were there.
It was incredible.
I was actually pregnant while we were
You were.
there. So I napped in every single room.
When I have anxiety or like I feel stressed out about something, I always want one of my pets to come and sit with me, like sit on my lap, or if I'm laying down, they can come and curl up on my chest. I love it. I love their purr. I love the weight. I love the soft fur. They're so cute and they're so cuddly. But what happens when they're not in the mood to cuddle? Or maybe you're out of town and they're not with you. Meet Give Hugs, the plushie that does more than just look adorable. These cozy little buddies can be heated, cooled, and cuddled to help with stress, cramps, or just those kind of days. Whether you're gifting or self-soothing, it's basically a weighted hug that you can actually hold. When I first heard about hugs, I was like, oh, that's really cute. And I can see that some people might really enjoy that, but I don't think I really need it. Oh my gosh, I was so wrong. As soon as I got him, he's so cute and so adorable. And he has that perfect weight. For some reason, just having that on your lap or on your chest or on your stomach, or trust me, for cramps, it just makes everything feel better. Plus, the fact that you can heat them up in the microwave, it's perfect for cramps or for sore muscles. Plus, you can put hugs in your freezer as well, so that's great for panic attacks, fevers, when you're just not feeling well, or even just sweaty summer nights. So what's in them, you might ask? Inside Hugs are just non-toxic glass beads. Plus, Hugs donates 10% of all proceeds of their Hugs of the Month to mental wellness charities. So give yourself the gift of coziness, warmth or cooling, and self-love. It's intentional self-care or a super thoughtful gift. Head to givehugs.co, that's givehugz.co, and use code GHOSTBUNNY for 20% off your first order. It's seriously the hug I didn't know I needed.
What did you experience at the Lizzie Borden house?
So I didn't do an investigation there. I've just been
Okay.
on a tour twice. One was, oh gosh, I don't even know, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and the other time was maybe like 2 years ago. It's on a tour, so there's really nothing, nothing really happened while we were on it. I know that they talked about there's a cat ghost, which I'm really excited about.
I actually felt it rub against her leg.
See, I love that. And then I know that there was a face captured down in the basement, like on the wall by the sink.
Yeah, wasn't that?
Like no matter how much they clean it, it never
Never try to wipe it away. Yeah, it just keeps returning.
It's something to do with the flash of the camera when like, I guess you can't see it when you're just standing there, but when the camera flashes, it, like, shows a face in the wall in the back, supposedly. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't see that when I was there. I just know people have been reporting that and trying to get a picture there on that location.
Yeah.
You know what's also interesting is, so we had this investigation. We were probably at the house for like, well, we arrived around 6 p.m. and we left at 4 a.m. So we were there for quite a long time. And almost the whole time we were there, we were experiencing a lot of activity. We were feeling kind of like the heaviness of the rooms and what had happened there. And then it got to a point where we all decided we should leave because it kind of got quiet for a little bit.
And we were tired.
And we were very tired and we were like, we should go. And it was the most bizarre thing. It's never happened in any other house that we've been in. As soon as we all said, all right, let's wrap up and go, the energy in the home completely shifted. We all went from going in pairs to the bathroom together to all just freely feeling okay, moving about the space and collecting all the items that we'd left in every single room, like all alone.
Like it got brighter.
But so bright that we were looking outside. Like, I think Ash or Elena had gone and looked out the window because they were like, did the sun come up? Like, it was so bright all of a sudden in the house. It made no sense. And it was almost as if the house was done explaining itself, or like it was done
Performing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be like taking its bow, final curtain.
Like, it was like, okay, you guys are leaving. All right, we're done. Like, and show over.
It's fascinating.
It was so weird.
Yeah.
That is so interesting because I had a similar experience happen to me at the Myrtles plantation.
Oh,
really?
Like, things were going nuts and crazy, and like we were like so my husband, he's not even like a super believer in all this stuff until that house, but he was like, oh my god, did you hear that? And like, we're so scared, and I had to go to the bathroom so bad and I refused to go, and things just like, we could hear furniture moving, we could hear kids playing, stomping on the stairs, like all kinds of stuff, and we were just like terrified. And then all of a sudden at one point it just stopped, and the energy just like lifted all of a sudden, because it felt like there was so much weight on us and we could barely move, but then all of a sudden it was just like light and bright and like,
wow.
And when I say light and bright, I don't even mean like necessarily the lights or anything like that, because we had the lights off, but it just like the energy, like the whole, like it felt like a weight off my shoulders, and all of a sudden just the whole tone, everything changed, and it was just, I knew in that second it's over. And I told them, oh my god, it's over. Like, do you feel that? Like every muscle in my body just like relaxed, and it was just over, and I felt free to go to the bathroom, like everything.
You know what time that was?
It was yes, because all of the drama started around 3 something, and I told him, look at the clock, tell me what time it is, and it was like 4 something.
So that's interesting too, because like, even though the Lizzie Borden house is the only place where it like physically changed the second we said we were leaving, I do feel like every house we've been to and every place we've investigated, it has reached a point where it's like the conversation or the ghost seemed like done talking.
Yeah.
And it was like
the Conjuring house.
Yeah,
And then we left at 4 a.m. It was like, okay, show's over at 4.
It's so interesting.
It is interesting.
Especially at the Myrtles plantation too, because that's where one of the most famous ghosts on like captured on photos happened, and that was in broad daylight, so it's like activity could happen around any time there.
Well, yeah, that's what I was just gonna say, is that I'm telling on the podcast all the time how ghost hunting doesn't have to be done at night. Like, it's, if something's haunted, like it's haunted all the time. But it's interesting that like something at 4 a.m. seems to be like a changing point. Like, but I still feel like if you got there at 10, you could have an experience at like 10 a.m., you know, but like there is something, there seems to be something around 4 a.m. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe the worst time to go ghost hunting is like 4 a.m.
It would seem that way. It almost makes me wonder if it's like our own energy that is contributing to the hauntings, where, you know, like during the day or at night, there's just so many people and so much energy that the spirits are used to, or like the house is used to getting a certain charge. And that oftentimes between the hours of like, I don't know, 4 a.m. and 9 a.m., there's not that many people going through to do a tour of a haunted place. And maybe that's why it gets so quiet. If it's,
this is like evidence of the fact that like we know so little about the paranormal, but this is also what makes it so fascinating.
Mhm.
It is, and that's why it's important to, like, have these podcasts and, like, telling everybody stories and stuff and learning from each other because, like, I had no idea that it stopped for somebody else at 4 AM sort of, and you felt like a total change in the atmosphere and everything with it. So it's interesting to know somebody else has experienced that too.
So
Yeah.
wild.
It makes
And
me think
like we have no explanation either. It's just like this weird, bizarre thing that's happened a few times, and similar to you, like we don't know why, but we felt
yeah,
it.
Yeah. I do
but it
think one day we'll have answers. I
When we're
believe.
dead.
Yeah, when we're ghosts on the other side, we know how it works.
well, no, yeah, totally. But I just think it's interesting, like, it's definitely a note in my head now to listen for other people if they've had any changes at 4 AM and, like, trying to make,
Yeah.
like, a little experiment in my own mind, like, is this happening for everyone?
Yeah. Oh, so
Hmm.
fascinating. There's so many places we want to go as well, and like I feel like I wish I could just every day go do a paranormal investigation. Like I'm tempted to just open my GhostTube app wherever I am, and I do it sometimes when I'm home. I'm like, who's around?
Oh, do you think your
Because it
house is
yeah.
haunted?
Oh yeah, my house is haunted. My house was built in 1776, and it's haunted by multiple spirits, but I, like, found all these articles about the house, and one of the first so when it was built, there were, like, 4 families living in it, and this woman, her name was Aunt Polly Holden, she was the aunt of, like, the owner of the house, and she raised and sold hundreds of pigeons on the 2nd floor of the house.
Oh, that's dirty.
It is, but I think it's the coolest thing ever, and, like, the flooring is original. Sometimes I'm like, "There's probably, like, decaying pigeon poop or, like, bones
They'll scratch me
in the cracks."
pigeon
For
feet.
sure.
Yeah. But so far, all of the hauntings have been good, like, weird electronic things and, um, like,
The wet bar.
there's, like, a sink that will all of a sudden, like, go off, and it almost feels like it's trying to contribute to the conversation.
Oh, that's interesting. So you don't feel anything negative or scary there?
In the house, no, but in the basement, yes. I had a psychic medium who works in Salem, like, come do a reading of the house, and she was like, "Is there a really big rock under the house, like, in this specific corner? Because I'm getting some, like, really weird, not evil, but dark energy from it." And I was like, "That's weird." Yeah, so we, like, went down to the basement, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, like, there's something weird in that corner." And naturally, I was like, "I'm gonna go down here and do an investigation." And I, like, live streamed this on YouTube, and this is when Corinne was on maternity leave, so I did it by myself, and I was explaining on the live stream, like, what the psychic medium had said about that corner, and it was, like, behind me to my back, and then I was, like, setting intentions, and I turned on the app, which I use to communicate, and the first thing it said was, "Behind you."
Chills.
I would shit myself. Alone in this dark basement of the oldest
Yeah.
freaking house.
Yeah.
No, way too scary.
It's creepy.
But
It's
this is what
exci
happens when you just pull out GhostTube or you're just
Yeah.
tempted to investigate anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary, but it's also exciting.
I agree. You've been telling that story, I, like, got, like, butterflies.
Yeah, but I feel like that's what makes it fun, and that's what makes me and probably you guys too, like, keep wanting to do it because there's an adrenaline rush to it.
Totally.
Anytime
And then when
something
you
like that
capture something, you're
happens.
like, "Oh, I gotta experience that again."
Yeah.
Right?
Totally, and I feel like so many people who haven't experienced it, like, they don't get it, but as soon as you have, like, that concrete experience where you're like, I can't explain that," then you're, like, hooked.
Yeah, we both grew up in haunted homes and, like, grew up experiencing the paranormal in families that normalized the experience, which I feel very fortunate
Yes.
for
Mhm.
because, like, we have listeners email us their stories all the time, and there are countless people who are like, "My family was like, 'You're just imagining it. It's not real.'" And there's such an isolation that comes from that type of attitude towards it, where it's almost like gaslighting your reality.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've talked about it before. Like, my family was just like, "What?" They'd never even like talked about ghosts or like don't even nothing about the paranormal. And they were like, half my family was like, "She needs to see a psychiatrist," and the other half was like, "She needs to go see the pastor of our church." Nobody was like, no, not one person was like, "This is normal."
Well, it's so funny. I find it really hilarious when, like, I have a friend who has experienced some paranormal things, but is so just like doesn't want to accept what she has experienced. And then she always says, "Well, I'm Catholic." I'm like, the Catholics are the ones that have the priests that do exorcisms. Like, this is the religion that believes.
Yeah.
What are you
I
talking
know.
about?
That's what I say too. It's so weird when people say, "Oh, like I'm religious, so I don't believe in that kind of thing and everything." And I'm like, wait, there's a lot of ghosts in your religion, though.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Literally the Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many ghost stories.
Yeah.
So many dead people coming back to give messages.
Yeah.
And paranormal stories, like even like walking on water and stuff is pretty
Right.
paranormal. Like if somebody did that today, I'd be like, wow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be all over YouTube.
Speaking of your guys' upbringing and everything, tell me about your first paranormal experience. I read about them online, but tell me about them.
I'm trying to remember. Well, because so my first experiences I don't have memory of. They were told to me by my parents. They said that
Okay.
pretty much like since I was born, I was interacting with people, I was engaging with others, and my parents themselves had a lot of experiences in the houses that I grew up in. So I was raised in three different houses. The first one was in Guilford, New Hampshire. The second one, Littleton, New Hampshire. And then when I was 5, we moved to Williston, Vermont, which is where my parents still have the house today. All three houses super haunted. But interestingly,
What's the commonality here?
It's
Corinne and her family.
it's possible.
I guess so. But the first two houses in New Hampshire, the spirit who haunted the Guilford, New Hampshire house actually moved with my parents to Littleton. So he was the one who was haunting that house. And that was really my first memory was in the Littleton house, which is when I was 3. He would like flush the toilet at night and whistle and open and close the front door. But some of my first memories were actually very scary in that house. And it wasn't really it didn't have relation to him. I call them a family of shadow people because they had varying heights and they lived kind of like in the mudroom. And the playroom, there would be the mudroom, and then there was the kitchen, and then the playroom/living room. And I just remember so many times being absolutely paralyzed with fear as a child, as it would be broad daylight. It's like 10 a.m. or whatever. I'm playing. My mom goes upstairs to change over the laundry, and I'll just feel the presence. I'll feel someone staring at me, and I'll look over, and there's just like these dark shadows moving on the walls. But like you can tell, even though they're completely shadowed and that they don't have faces, you can tell that they're looking at you. And it was very scary, and I have had multiple experiences with shadow people in different homes that I've lived in, even in college, and yeah, every time it's very, very freaky. So that was my first experience. Uh, but the experiences that me and my whole family had in Vermont were really scary. My parents are gonna sell their house this year. I'm not sure they're gonna advertise it as a haunted house, but I think they should.
Right. I don't know. Are there any laws out there about that? About having to like disclose that kind of information?
It's state by state, right?
It's state by state, and you know what? My parents built our house, so while it's haunted for us, it might not be haunted for the next person
Right.
because, again, it's like, was it just my family, or was it the energy?
Well, you found out recently, like you ran into someone and found out they had an exorcism in their house in that neighborhood.
Oh, okay. So, well, this is kind of like a two-part.
Oh yeah,
story.
there's that.
Casual.
Oops, I forgot that part. No, so my family built the house. It was one of the first 5 houses in this development. And we had a ton of activity basically like from the get-go. My brother would have these cloaked figures walking around and like chanting in his room. My mom would like have this big dark massive cloud like encroaching on her in the middle of the night. My dad woke up to someone like laughing in his face. I had a man charge me. Like there was just a lot of stuff that was happening uh in my childhood home. And we just kind of thought like maybe it was just our family and it was just this house. And then as the development starts to be built out, a house that was built maybe 10 years after ours, we hear that they had to actually call the priest and have an exorcism done on their house because vases and items in their home were being picked up and shoved against the
That's
walls and breaking. And so we lived with this for a while thinking like, oh my God, like there's something in the neighborhood. And then maybe it was 2 years ago, I ran into the daughter of the man who had sold the land to be subdivided. And when I say daughter, she's probably in her like 60s now. This land was in her family for generations and generations. It was farmland, and they lived kind of like classic house on top of the hill or whatever, looking down into this field and valley where it was subdivided for all of her homes to be built. And when I say all of her homes, it was like 30 homes on a big plot of land. And I asked her, I was like, I don't know if this is a weird thing to ask, but and I didn't wanna tell her our house was haunted because I didn't want her to be like, "You weirdo," if she didn't believe, but I was just
Yeah.
like, "Did you know that there was a like, someone in the neighborhood had to have their house, exorcised? Like, have you ever experienced anything weird on the land, or do you know anything about the land?" And she was like, "I had no idea that happened, but that's so weird." She was like, "I always have felt really weird about the land and our own home, the house on top of the hill." She's like, "We've had so many, like, really dark energy, like really dark experiences." She was like, even in the basement as an adult, I won't go into the basement alone today. And she was telling me all these experiences that they've had about like things being thrown, like huge pieces of furniture being toppled over. So basically, her answer was,
The whole
yeah,
land. All
there's
land is
something
haunted.
really dark
Yeah.
on the land, and we don't know what it is.
Wow.
Interesting. That also makes me think of too, like, because everybody seems to have a basement story. I wonder what it is
Yeah.
about basements. I know they're already dark and kind of spooky, and there's not a lot of entrances and exits and stuff. But what is it about basements that are so
Right. It's like
haunted?
basements, attics, and closets.
Yeah,
Is it just the corners that we already kind of naturally fear, or do we fear them because those are the chicken or the egg situation, right?
yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. It's so interesting,
Yeah.
and I wonder what's happened. I mean, obviously something happened on that land.
Yeah, I don't really know, and I know that there is a Native American burial mound nearby. It's like a quarter of a mile away, or so they say. But none of the spirits, none of the activity. I've seen many physical apparitions, as of many people in our lives have had their first paranormal experience in my parents' home. But it's never like matched the description of.
Well, it's interesting too. So we've been talking a lot about haunted Appalachia, like the mountains and the trail. And there's so much belief on like because these that mountain range is so old and ancient and like so a combination of so many different stones and like, collision of different rock formations that it does it have to do with the energy held in like if I don't know if you believe in like crystals and like energetic wavelengths, like are there certain places that just hold more power?
Okay, so and then what was your first paranormal experience?
I'm trying to think similar to Korean, like I think my first that I remember is different than what my first experience was. Because my mom recently told me that, like, growing up, I used to cry and, like, tell my mom that there were, like, people in my closet, and she ignored me, and then when my brother was, like, 2 or 3 years old, because he was 5 years younger than me, he started complaining of, like, the little boy and kept saying, like, "Tell the little boy I don't wanna play, I'm trying to sleep." And then my mom was like, "Okay, I get it. There are real ghosts here." And my dad grew up in Pakistan and, like, had a lot of beliefs in the paranormal and dealt with potential possession, which is a whole other story, not mine to tell. I don't even know all the details. So he dealt with dark things, but there were apparently a mom and a son spirit in the house that I grew up with. And for the most part, it always felt good. Like I would occasionally feel like someone was watching, but it never felt negative, except for this one experience that I had that's like it's one of those stories that it started when I was 4, but I didn't put all the pieces together until I was 21 years old.
Oh, wow.
So, I used to have a reoccurring nightmare that felt so real that every time I would have it, I would wake up, like, in my dreams still, but in what I had fallen asleep in, like, say, pajamas. My room would look exactly as it had looked when I had fallen asleep. And it would always be the same dream where I'd wake up in my dream and there'd be a presence at my door, like it was beckoning me to follow it. So I would follow it down the hallway towards my sister's room. And then every time I'd get to my sister's room, there would be these black and white orbs fighting over her. And in that moment, I wake up. And it was always a nightmare. Like I was always in a panic and scared. And it stuck with me so much that when I was in college and I was graduating college, I was at dinner with my dad, my sister, and my brother, and we were in a conversation about reoccurring nightmares. And I shared this one along with a couple others. And then my dad drops me off at like the, graduation party, and he texts me and he's like, "Hey, do you have time to talk before I leave tomorrow? Because one of those dreams you had wasn't a dream. It happened in real life." So obviously I was like, "What the fuck?"
I have
Um,
chills everywhere.
yeah, and I was like, "What are you like?" And it also felt like, "Are you really gonna drop that on me and not tell me until I see you tomorrow?" But I met up with him, and he goes on to tell me this whole story about we had just moved into this new house, similar to Corinne. We were the first ones to live in it. It was a brand new build. I was 4, my sister was 6, and my dad had fallen asleep on the couch one night, and then he, like, woke up probably somewhere around, like, 2 or 3-ish, of course, and he heard a really weird noise, and he thought maybe it was just the TV, so he turns off the TV, and he starts going around the house, making sure all the doors are closed, like, windows are closed, but he said that as he started going towards the stairwell to go upstairs, he got, like, this feeling of being watched as if someone and something was wrong and someone was in the house. So, obviously, he's, like, adrenaline pumping, like, instincts, fight or flight going. He goes up the stairs, and I'm asleep. He checks on my mom, she's asleep. Then he starts walking down the hallway, and he said, like, every step he took closer and closer to my sister's room, like, the air got heavier and colder and thicker, and all of his instincts were telling him to run. He gets to my sister's door, touches the handle, and he said it was ice cold, but, like, his daughter's in there. So he pushes open the door, and my sister's asleep on the bed, eyes closed. He takes one step in, and out of her mouth, in a deep guttural voice comes, "Get out." And my dad literally, like, obviously wants to run because it's like, "What is that?" But then he goes up to my sister and, like, is like, "Leave my daughter alone." Shakes my sister awake. My sister was fine, everything, and he picks her up. And then, like, one version of the story, he told me, like, he turned around and I was sleepwalking in the doorway, so my belief is, like, I may have been visually interpreting what the black and white orbs, like, good and evil fighting over my sister as, like, a dreamscape. But either way, I was witnessing what was happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so creepy.
It's so creepy. And, like, it's weird because I don't remember any of, like, what my dad experienced, right? To me, I still feel like it was a dream.
Yeah, you weren't watching him
Yeah,
over your sister. You were just seeing the orb. Like, you were seeing a version,
the energy.
which does make sense that you maybe were sleepwalking because you were seeing, like, the astral plane version of events.
Right. But yeah, he got the house blessed, and then whatever dark energy went to a closet in the basement.
Yeah, it's so fascinating what you were just saying. Like, if you were sleepwalking, like, you could have possibly been seeing things on, like you just said, on a different plane rather than what was really happening in front of you since you didn't even really see your dad in the room.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
so interesting. Have you guys ever played around with astral projection or anything like that?
I did it once accidentally, or maybe twice if this is an astral projection experience. I wish I could do it and like have education on how to control it. It's scary.
It is. Yeah. I did it once accidentally too, and every time I felt the same thing happen that happened that time, I fight it so hard.
Yeah.
Wait, so tell me what happened. Like, did you actually go somewhere and see something or?
I think ours are kind of similar. Like we stayed in the same, like in our buildings, right? Like,
Yeah, mine was very benign. I was in college. I took a nap in the middle of the day. I My friend Sarah was coming over and I could see I like left my room while I was napping and looked out the door as she knocked on the door and was like panicked, like, "Oh no, I'm trapped in my body. I can't get up. I'm in this sleep paralysis state. I can't answer the door for Sarah." And I was watching her outside holding like a cooler because we were painting frulers or whatever for like a frat thing. And I was seeing it all. And then 30 minutes later, when I did finally like fight myself awake and out of this sleep paralysis state, I walked out into the living room. My friend Marissa, who I lived with, had answered the door and let Sarah in. And Sarah was wearing the exact clothes that I'd seen her in while I was sleeping and all that. So that's when I was like, oh my God, did I just accidentally astral project? And my mom, it's happened to her multiple times. So I don't know if
Friends
it's like,
family.
yeah, some sort of like situation like that. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
it's happened to you a couple times.
I would say like one real time that I count because
But yours wasn't, yeah. Okay, you were like still in it. Like I didn't experience the astral plane. You did.
I did. It was weird. Okay, so mine was I was living in Playa del Rey in Los Angeles at the time. This was like 2015, 2016. And I was asleep. It was at night. And I like remember coming out of my body and I like knew that I was like disconnecting from my physical body. And I was in my apartment and I like walked through my apartment into the living room area and there was a woman sitting in the like in the chair on the couch waiting for me like as if she knew I was going to enter the astral plane and like we sat and talked for what felt like 30 minutes and I don't really know like the passage of time in the astral plane but I would like if I saw this woman in real life I would recognize her instantly. I've never seen her before but like she had like really, really dark curly hair. And like I would recognize her if I saw her in real life. And like in my mind, I'm like, is she my spirit guide? I don't know. But she was like, follow me and took me through. And at the time, the apartment I was living in like had the longest hallway and there was like a door every 5 seconds. Like you had to go through so many doors. But I was like able to just like go through all of the doors. And then we were exiting my building and like space and we're going into a more amorphous astral plane, but almost immediately in my ear of my physical body, I heard a voice say, "Wake up." And I sprung back into my body and did like the horror movie spring out of bed. Yeah, come into a moment.
Wow.
So I don't know if like something malevolent was around and then there was like a good spirit trying to like protect me and said, like, come back to your body. I don't know.
Do you remember what you were talking to the woman about?
Yeah, like life. It was very much about my life and maybe it's 2017 because it was like when we started the podcast. So I was like tapping into spirituality in a new way again and I was going through some relationship stuff and just life things and she was just like being the wise older guide giving me advice. Like it felt really peaceful, that part of it.
It's so fascinating. My sister and my stepdad, and so she's my half sister, but they can do like out of body, like in their dreams, they have like out of body experiences and stuff. And I'm like, I've never, and they just act like it's normal. Like, doesn't everybody have that? And I'm like, I have never.
Wait, can they control it?
Like
No,
boosted.
I don't think so.
Um
It just happens to them.
See, that's like what like I've only really experienced like that one time I feel like is the most recent time I've experienced it. I wish I could control it because then I wouldn't be as afraid of it.
Right. And we have listeners too who've talked about being able to control it and meeting other people who are similar, where it's like,
Oh,
people will become friends or like have relationships in the astral realm because they're all just kind of like astral projecting together at the same time, meeting fellow travelers.
this reminds me of this story, and I don't know if you've heard of it, Bridget, but Corinne, you told me about it, and it was like someone on TikTok is an astral projector, and she was
Yeah.
telling this story about how she astral projects, and she does it, and like can go all over the world.
She calls it like remote viewing.
Yeah. And so
Mhm.
she decided to go remote view and astral project to Area 51. And she was greeted by like astral bodyguards that are protecting Area 51 who like chased her.
In the astral plane,
In the
chased her,
astral
and she
plane.
was like trying to jump from place to place and kind of like lose them. So she was, it wasn't like she was just running in Area 51 away from them astrally. I think she was like popping over, like all of a sudden she was at Tower of London, and then we're just wide all over the place being chased by these bodyguards.
I believe that. I've heard that our government like has spent tons of money like teaching people how to astral project and how to do remote viewing and stuff. And I've even heard that that's how they caught Osama bin Laden.
Really? Okay, well, it's so crazy. Like,
Oh.
I get so into conspiracy theories, but like all the CIA documents that have been released where actually before I gave birth, I looked up the CIA document where you're supposed to repeat a certain number sequence to
What?
convince yourself that you don't feel pain anymore. And it was like 44564 or like something like that. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm
I
gonna
didn't even know that was
repeatedly be like 44564 44564. I just got an epidural. So I said that
Wait,
yeah, it's like
we can't test the theory then.
no, okay, maybe next time. I'll try again. I gave up way too quick. I was not as tough as a CIA agent, clearly.
Yeah. Well, it's just so interesting, and there are books and there are classes. Like I know the Rhine does classes on it and stuff. So there's ways to kind of like figure out how to like teach yourself how to do these things and get better
Right.
at it.
Are you gonna try?
I'm interested in it, but I'm also scared.
I know. I know.
Yeah. Well, because that's one of the things with the paranormal, which is kind of scary, where it's like it's really hard to know how to protect yourself. And opening yourself up can come with so many unwanted things that it is kind of like a toss up where it's like you could do this really cool thing or you could have all of these amazing abilities, but then how do you only have those things and not all the scary stuff that also could follow?
Yeah.
Yeah. With the paranormal, I feel pretty like with just like ghost hunting and stuff, I feel pretty dialed in. Like I feel like I have like a bubble around me and I'm just like I have an attitude and a sense that I'm here for the experience and then when I leave I'm done. But like something like the remote viewing or the astral projection or something, I feel a little bit more vulnerable. Like I don't
Mhm.
know how this works and like how I protect myself in this. Did either one of you notice some people talk about a cord or a string that's still attached to your body? Did you notice anything like that?
I didn't notice it, but the way that I sprung back to my physical body, that makes sense because it was like truly I heard it was in my right ear, I heard wake up. And I was like, it like the way I could describe it is as if I like backwards motion went back to my body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like somebody
I didn't
pulled you
see or
back.
feel anything, but it kinda similar to you. I remember once I saw my friend out the door and I was kinda panicked and realizing someone was gonna come get the door. I didn't turn around and, like, walk back to my body. I just kind of, like it was kinda like I was being pulled, like,
Back in.
yeah, like I was
Yeah.
in the water holding onto a rope, and I just kinda slowly got pulled back until I went back into
Hmm.
bed.
So interesting.
Making my like soul itch. You know, like
It's creepy. It makes me think of the movie Insidious and, like,
I
how
know.
vulnerable you are. I remember actually a few years ago, I was trying to do the Brian Weiss past life regression therapy, like, hypnosis therapy on YouTube, and I was, like, trying to go back and whatever. My mom I was doing this in my childhood home. My mom was so scared that I was going to successfully kind of, like, astral project and go into this other place and get lost or, like, become untethered to my body that she sat outside of my bedroom for the, like, 40-minute meditation to make sure that I was okay.
Oh my gosh. Have you guys read Brian Weiss's book, Many Lives, Many Masters?
Mhm. Yeah, I think we have it. Oh, yeah, it's right there on the bookshelf, Many Lives, Many Masters. I've read it so many times.
Yeah, that book just had me. Like I was just like, oh my
I
God,
know.
this is like everything.
We had some wild listener stories of past lives that when people like try to it's so funny because like we Corinne and I both have like a couple emails. Granted, we've had so many emails from listeners over the years, but there are a couple that anytime someone challenges us about the paranormal, we have like our arsenal that we whip out and we're like, here, hold on, let me read this story and like
Yeah.
show you this picture. And one of them is like about past lives.
Have you guys done past life regression?
No.
No, we would love to do, like, the actual hypnosis and whatnot.
Yeah.
I've had a past life reading, and I've also had some memories that I've realized don't belong to me in this lifetime.
Yeah.
But, like, nothing where it's so clear that I have different memories. But when I was younger, I was definitely a very creepy little kid. When I was 3, I had a couple moments that I said weird things to my mom, and this really made her believe in past lives. Both times I was kind of getting frustrated in the moment at, like, having to brush my teeth or, like, I was overtired or whatever. But she said both times my voice changed and I became this very, like, clear, articulate child. And the first time I said, "How come you're the mom now?" And she was like, "Uh, because you were the mom before?" And she said I just kinda, like, looked frustrated and then kinda, like, went out of my trance again and back to my little kid. self. And the second time I said, and this was after we had moved from Guilford, New Hampshire to Littleton, New Hampshire. And I just turned to her one day and I said, I want to go back. And she was a little caught off guard because it was very clear again. And I was being like very poised and not like, like a little kid. And she said, go back where? Go back to Guilford? Because we had recently moved. And I said, no. She said, where do you want to go back to? I said, I want to go back to heaven. And she was freaked out because she had not talked to me about like heaven or hell. And, I watched Fox and the Hound every day for a year. So they don't talk about heaven or hell either. So she had no idea how I was exposed to that. And it really freaked her out. Yeah.
That is really, really interesting because they say too that a lot of times you stay in like the group that you know, and that's why people are, like
Traveling souls.
Yeah.
Have you done a past life regression or hypnosis?
I haven't done it. Holly's done it. And even my husband did it a long time ago. He got it just like as a gift for a birthday, like way before we ever met. And he had like the most interesting experience too. Like I wish I could get a hold of like his records because they recorded it. They asked the girl who was doing it, the woman, I should say, said she was going to be writing a book and asked if she could record their session. And he was writing with his left hand. He's right-handed. He was writing with his left hand a letter to his family because he was in like the war. And he wrote a whole letter under hypnosis and had this whole thing. And just like crazy stuff. But he has like very little memory of it. And he said she gave him one of those little mini cassette tapes afterwards but asked if she could keep the letter. And I've been trying to figure out who she is. We cannot figure it out. And he can't find the little tape.
Oh my gosh. That is the coolest experience.
I know. And so that makes me nervous, but also want to do it. And then Holly wants me to do it really bad because she says that we were friends in a past life. So, but she doesn't want to tell me which one because she wants me to do it and see if it lines up.
Oh, I love that.
You should definitely do that. You have to do this.
I know.
I mean, I've also like all past life regressions or hypnoses that I've heard of. Like, I feel like they're all positive experiences and like offer insight, if anything, to your present life. So I hinted at this, but my dad has dealt with like weird possessions. He did a past life regression. So he's now remarried to his like third wife, and my mom and his other wives have all said, sorry, not third wife at the same time, I should clarify. Like, I feel like the way I said other wives, but they've all said previous relationships. They've all said that my dad used to speak like a different language in his sleep, like mutter a different language. So then when he did his past life hypnosis, it came through that like one of his past lives was like not a very good person, and was trying to like take over my dad's current life, which is like what he was battling with at night. And then this other voice was coming through because the other past life was trying to come through.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about hypnosis in general. I'm not worried about like the past life information, like that part I want to know. But like hypnosis, I feel like I can't let go. It's sort of like meditation. Like I just can't get into it. Like I can't let go fully enough so that I go there with it.
Yeah. And there's so much overthinking too.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. And then when I try to, I feel like I'm making this up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like, is this my imagination? We did a thing recently where we attempted to try automatic writing. And like, we were told just like, basically write any thought that comes to your head. And then it's like, I kept just being like, is this a message or is it just my brain thought processy, like going from chicken to soup because chicken soup, like,
Which you're a vegetarian, so you don't even eat chicken soup.
No. But I don't know. I mean, I'm also open to like all methods, but yeah, it's hard to know what's real and what our mind is creating.
But to your point, so we were doing this exercise and we were all kind of like sharing the things that came up, and you were like sharing a couple things and you're like, all right, this is really random, I don't know where this came from. And she said chicken soup, and it did mean it was a very strong message, a very like big clue to someone else in the group. Like it did have meaning. It meant nothing to you, but it did have meaning to someone else. But it's one of those things where it's like, again, to your point, Bridget, it's like there's no one else there when it comes to past life readings to say, oh, yeah, that's right. Or like that means something. So you are kind of left with like, is this real? Is this actually a past life?
So my friend from college, her name's Marina, but her whole life has had like really severe hip pain. And this was wild. She was like, she's gone to like so many doctors, all this stuff. And she was in a waiting room at a doctor's office for her hip problems when this like woman, she like kept noticing this woman across the room, like staring at her. She was like, okay, like, I don't know what's going on. And the woman looks at her and goes, it's not from this life. It's from another life. And Marina's like, what? And the woman goes, you were crushed by a carriage and it fell on your hip. And keep in mind, this is a complete stranger. Like this
Yeah.
woman has never met Marina. They're not at a hip doctor. Like they're at just a normal doctor. And yeah, the woman was like, you were in a carriage accident and the carriage like fell on your hip and crushed you. But like the impact was your hip. And that she's been carrying the pain since that past life.
That's so
Which, like, who is
interesting.
this woman?
I know. Where do we
Yeah.
find her?
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I always have this chronic pain like in my shoulder neck area, and I always wonder, is that from a different life? Because I don't remember ever like doing something that injured it. I mean, you could
Yeah.
say heavy backpack in high school and then college and stuff, all those
Sure.
books and stuff. Like
Yeah.
maybe you could say something like that, but like there was never like an injury, like I never had a carriage fall on me or like a car accident or anything like that I know of. So it'd be so interesting to know if something like that was
Yeah.
related.
I know, and that kind of goes back to the Many Lives, Many Masters book, where it's like all about where do your phobias come from if it doesn't match anything that you've experienced in this life, and how hypnosis can help you with that. But I agree with you, Bridget. Like, I'm not sure that I'd be able to get to the point of actually being able to get the information. But I do think it would be really interesting if you do it, because while you might question your own memories, Holly also is not telling you everything. So like you have someone who might be able to vouch for like, oh my God, yes, that's exactly what I experienced.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get validation on at least one thing. And
Yeah.
then if you have validation on one, then who's to say the rest isn't true too?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it would be so interesting.
I mean,
I
it would be
wanna do
cool.
it, and then but I wanna go to somebody who's, like, really good and who I trust and stuff like that, and I'm like, "Okay, so I gotta
Yeah.
figure out who that is," because you would think doing this podcast, I would know exactly who that person is, but I don't actually. I don't know who I would go to.
It's so hard. Yeah.
It is really hard.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into it a little bit.
There's so many practitioners out there too, and it's like it's one of those professions where like it does have so much opportunity for the wrong people to come in and just kind of, whether they believe themselves or not, but like not actually be able to have the ability to tell you what's authentically true. And it's really hard to weave through with those people.
And we had an experience where we went to see someone who like really kind of like saw a psychological like reaction from me and then like really picked on it in like an emotional manipulative way rather than I didn't feel like it was fully spiritual.
I felt it
Oh,
was 0% spirit. We
oh,
left there and I was like, that lady totally believes in herself, but I do not believe in a thing she said. And we are people that normally believe in everybody's experience. So
Yeah.
like that one was a bad experience.
Yeah.
But like we're very lucky that we live in the Salem area where there are so many people that are so tapped in. And Salem is not, I think people are surprised when they visit Salem because it's actually not this hokey place that you might think of it to be. Like the people that work there, the people that you see if you go to October in Salem and walk around, like those are people that are working in those professions year round.
Yeah.
People take their craft and witchcraft and all of that very seriously.
Yeah.
And so I think we are lucky to be exposed to so many people that year round try to practice these things, and not in a way necessarily to just like make money or advertise themselves, but because they're truly authentically interested in it and are already naturally sort of like open and inclined to
Yeah.
be walking amongst the world of the paranormal.
It's also been
definitely.
cool. Like we like to call ourselves baby witches because like we're not like full practicing witches, but we feel intuitively attracted to some type of like magical work and
Mhm.
spiritual connection. but a lot of our listeners are on like similar spiritual journeys, and it's really, really cool seeing. We have one listener who all of a sudden like started getting like messages that were for another listener, and she was getting all of the details right about his like aunt.
Yeah, she like went into our Discord and was like, "This is gonna be so weird, but I'm seeing this. I'm getting this message." And like, just again, it was like the chicken soup thing with Sabrina. Like to anyone else, there would be a string of absolute gibberish.
Yeah.
But to this one individual, he was like, "That is all correct." And we could see this because it was on the Discord channel. So we're all like watching like it's a movie in our show like unfold where he's giving almost nothing. He's like, "And what else? And what else?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "And then this, and then this." And he's like, "Yep, yep, 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 yep." And it was incredible. But it's like people are having these moments where they're tapping in, and it does feel like, should I believe this? Is this just like some crazy string of thoughts? Am I making something up that I want to feel? And we're lucky enough to sit in a community where like we do have, like it might be like the Two Girls One Ghost community, but we always say like everyone around us has contributed just as much as we have. We're just like happen to
We're
have
just watching.
we're watching yeah, everyone else on like, Discord or Facebook or whatever experience these things. But yeah, we're very lucky to be in a spot where there's so many like-minded people and people who are interested in putting all this like really positive energy forward, where it is kind of, there are people that are having these moments and having these like spiritual awakenings.
And it makes me believe that we can all have it too. It's kind of with anything, like it kind of takes practice and intention. Like if we all wanted to start astral projecting and we read books about it and like really fully focused on it, hyper focused on it, I feel like we all could.
Yeah. We're just all so busy and stuff too. And there's all these other things and stuff. And then you're like, oh, wait, I got to make time for that too. Okay, next week.
I think priority for us three, when we can add Ash and Elena into it, is to go Bigfoot hunting in Massachusetts.
That requires no mind clearing, no meditation. We can be busy, busy, busy and still try to track down a Sasquatch.
Well, we do have to work on the call though.
We do, and I feel like we all need like matching like visors.
Oh, yes. The plastic ones?
Yeah.
Different colors.
Plastic for sure. They also said they wanted to do the Lizzie Borden house again, all of us, which I think would be really fun.
Oh, that would be really fun.
It would be so cool. I mean, that house feels forever undone, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like we could go a million times and experience so much more.
Yeah. You let us know when you're in town again and we will do that.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping to go sometime soon, sometime this year. I haven't been. So last time I was there was October. So I'll be there this time, sometime this year. Tell me about the doll on your lap.
Oh, this is actually a doll that a listener gave to us, and Corinne has an Annabelle up there, but this is Raggedy Andy. And that's Raggedy Ann, I should say, not Annabelle. When we were on tour, we had gone to investigate the Conjuring house and then did like a live show in 34 cities, and a listener thrifted these dolls, and they kind of just became our comfort dolls.
Yeah, at first we were like, oh my God, are these haunted? And she was like, well, I don't know, but they look a little creepy. And we do not believe they're haunted. In fact, they were our emotional support dolls. We hugged them on stage to battle our stage fright.
Yeah. So if they're haunted, it's haunted by like our stage fright energy.
By Corinne and Sabrina's anxiety.
Do you guys have a tour coming up again?
No.
How was that experience? Was that fun?
I loved it.
It was okay. I found out I was pregnant while we were on tour, so I was exhausted.
Yeah, and you got COVID the first weekend and got
pregnant.
Oh my
God.
Yeah, and during every meet and greet, every time someone hugs me, my boobs hurt so bad because I was sniffing pregnant. I wanted to throw up. So I had a rougher go at tour.
Yeah.
But it was so interesting because not only were we meeting all of these people who just had incredible ghost stories, but a lot of the venues we played were haunted.
Love
and
that.
a few venues were super open to us actually investigating
Yeah.
with them. So like before a few shows, we actually went around with staff members and would like go into these basements and like the locked off parts of
The one in Colorado,
oh my God, yeah.
I think it's called the Crystal Boat. No.
You keep
Calling everything.
every time we talk about tour, you call it.
I just thought you would have lost. Okay.
Cervantes?
Cervantes. And it used to be a brothel. And above the like stage, the theater, are the original like brothel rooms and like long hallways with 10 bedrooms on either side, and they're super run down and dilapidated, and they allowed us to like go up there and use all of our ghost hunting equipment.
And it was the first time, so the manager brought us up, but it was the first time all of the staff members had ever been allowed up there. It took us being like, you want to go see if there's ghosts upstairs, for the manager to be like, okay, I'll allow everyone upstairs.
They were all so excited.
Yeah, almost immediately our equipment started going off, and it was really freaky. But then during our show, it was the only show where Sabrina actually came and sat in my lap because we were so scared on stage because there was such a weird energy and our equipment kept going off. And there was one point where I looked behind me and I saw a man coming on stage, and I assumed we had been having some like tech issues ahead of time with microphones. And at one point they had to like swap out a mic that we were using on stage. So I thought that it was a guy coming up to do that again. And I watched him go behind our screen because we had a whole presentation with like photos and videos and stuff from the Conjuring house and our research there. And I watched him go behind screen. I thought he was going to pop out the other side, and no one came out. And I was like, what the hell? And the wildest part was that multiple people who were in the audience also saw someone like go on stage and someone moving.
And like standing kind of behind me for part of the show.
Yeah, there was a lot of activity. And then there was another show that I can't remember exactly where we were, but there was another show where multiple people, like a good chunk of the audience, all saw like a shadow man or like shadows kind of darting back and forth behind us. It was just so freaky.
We have a large paranormal audience as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting. You know, I had a similar thing happen to me in Tombstone. I was on the stage with a bunch of other people. We were doing a panel, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw somebody walk behind the screen and over to like off to the other side. I didn't know where it went. We didn't start out back behind stage. We just like literally walked up the stairs onto the stage. And so I was like, oh, there must be somebody back there like controlling things or whatever. And then after we were done, I walked back there and I peeked around and there was nobody back there. And if you were to have walked the direction I saw, it would just went straight into the panel for all the like light switches and stuff. There's nothing there. And I was looking back there, and then somebody was like waiting off stage, like a couple people to like say hi or take a picture or whatever. And I came back out and I was like, oh, sorry, I just thought I saw something. And they're like, oh no, we saw it too. Did you see the dark shadow like walk past? I was like, you saw it? It wasn't just me. And they're like, no, we saw it.
Oh my God.
I do love that other people saw it. It does make me wonder how many times, like if you're in a busy place, like how many times do we see ghosts and just not realize it?
Yeah.
I wonder
Well,
that
actually,
too.
so like when we were on tour, we started like realizing how much activity was happening, whether it was because of the venues that we were at or just because of the culmination of people who were coming like with a like-minded openness into a certain space. We started after we left the stage, leaving all of our equipment on stage for people to interact with or kind of like watch, because even after we left and people were kind of like shuffling out, things would go off and things would almost like have a call and response to certain people.
I also will say a ghost that came with us on tour was pretty pervy, because anytime like Corinne would make any type of sexual innuendo or joke, the like equipment would go off excitedly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. One of my favorite things was someone brought with them, like that thing that you can like capture stick figures.
Yeah.
Like this stick figure dancing sort of thing. They captured a stick figure like at a particular pervy joke show that we had, lounging across the stage in between us with their like head on their hand and their leg up like this.
Like kind of like your French girl.
Yeah. Like your
Yeah.
French doll.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's so fun. Well, at least they have a sense of humor.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. We call him Sven.
We do. And actually, you know what is another weird thing? We talked about this years ago and we haven't revisited it since. So a few years ago, Sabrina and I decided to go through and find some of the EVPs that people have marked in our episodes. And we realized that we went through like 3 years of EVPs that people were just like, did you hear the EVP at this episode and this mark or whatever? We realized that over like a 3 or 4 year period, we had captured the same man's voice multiple times.
Yeah.
And we have no idea who it is. And we've lived in different apartments, different places, there's no way. We just don't know. So yeah, we call him Sven. There's some man who is following us.
Yes, it's haunting our podcast.
That's so interesting. And I always think it's cool too when like the podcast goes out and then people like will write in and be like, oh, at 33:25
Right.
there was like a voice, and I'm like, really? Because you don't, even with all the editing and stuff, like sometimes you still miss those things.
Right. Yeah.
There's only one EVP on our entire podcast feed that is actually not an EVP that does freak a lot of people out. Almost everyone hears it and emails us and are like, "Did you hear that?" And it's a whispered "thank you, thank you." And we didn't catch it in post. It was me. My roommate at the time was giving me cookies for recording. And I was like, "Thank you." But I
That's
didn't
so
know it. Everyone's writing in being like, "Oh my god, did you hear that EVP?" And then we're like, "Oh shoot, this is kind of embarrassing."
that's
So
so
we
funny.
do debunk when we can.
Yeah. We try.
Yeah. When we used to record, we have a little studio now for Girls Next Level, but when we used to record at Holly's house, things would happen all the time. Her house was built in 1926 and it's like in the
Yeah.
Hollywood Hills and super haunted. And like we would hear, well, a lot of people would say they hear things at certain times like mommy and things like that. But a lot of
my
times
God.
while we're recording, not an EVP, we would hear like a crash or like a knock or a tap, just like in the other room, and there was nothing there. There was nothing happening.
I feel like Holly had a bunch of like kind of poltergeisty activity in her house.
She has before. Yeah, she's
Mm.
had like even like the ceiling came down in part
Oh
of
my
the room.
gosh.
Like she's had like a
Wow.
lot of issues going on over there.
And she still wants to live there?
It doesn't seem
Yeah,
like threatening.
The
yeah.
ceiling crashing down?
Well, it's also an old house, so you got to like decide,
Yeah.
is it
Yeah,
paranormal?
that's true.
There were like things that like kind of made it seem a little paranormal, like the timing of it and everything, but like
Right.
maybe not. But the door has slammed.
Wow.
Wow.
Heard
Oh my
something in
gosh.
her
This
ear.
Is your house haunted? I know
No.
we'll ask you more about your personal experiences on our episode, but
Yeah.
is it haunted?
No.
Okay.
Well, that's kind of nice because then you can go seek out the paranormal when you choose to, and then you can have your own
Animal
Exactly.
free home.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of like it that way. I mean, part of me feels like, oh, I should live in a haunted place. And part of me is like, well, it's kind of nice to like not have it 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and there's so many places that we know of that are haunted that, like if you want to go experience the paranormal, you easily can do that. It's not
Yeah.
like you're going to miss out.
It's much
Right.
better to choose when you experience the paranormal.
I think so too.
I actually realized, well, I didn't realize, I was told by someone in my neighborhood. So I bought a house a couple years ago and we've had just like little random things happen here and there in my house. But I was talking to someone who's lived in the neighborhood for her entire life. And she knew the people who, it's kind of similar to like my parents' experience and mine back in Vermont, but she knew the people who first owned all of the land before they sold it off to be subdivided. And she said it was like the big mansion on top of the hill that has since been knocked down to create other homes. But she said that the original family, despite having such a large house, only lived in one small section of the home because the rest of the house was overrun by ghosts, is what they said.
Whoa.
I love that.
And at first I'm like, okay, like this is something that, like she was probably a teenager growing up here and that's the rumor of like the house on top of the hill in this neighborhood. But no, I believe it. There's a lot of weird things, weird energy, especially like up in that area. Dogs react strangely.
I feel like everywhere could be haunted. That's everywhere. Anyone and everyone could be haunted. That's the lesson to learn.
The open ocean.
Yes.
You might see a mermaid or a
Ghost
ghost ship.
ships.
Yes, I love ghost ships.
Yeah. I do have a question I wanted to ask you that was on here though, because I'm fascinated by it. And I think you guys did an episode on it, but like electronic or like phone calls from the dead
Yeah.
or electronic messages from the dead.
We've done a couple episodes and like read listener stories. My grandma even had an experience when my grandfather passed away. Where like
Really?
at the same time, what we believed the time that he had passed away, she kept getting a phone call at that time, night after night. And like when she would pick up, it sounded like a bunch of whispers, but it was staticky. And we believe it was him trying to like communicate.
Ugh.
Yeah, this stuff is, I mean, there's no real explanation. It is just so fascinating. And we've read some emails and done some research on stories that involved, like anywhere from people receiving phone calls from someone who was murdered or had passed away like weeks before, and they're calling from another house to like give a message. But one of my favorites that we heard was a woman who'd passed away, and a couple of weeks later, her family is trying to kind of, like go through the process of getting all of her stuff together and the arrangements, and she had a package delivered, or there was like something like that, a package that was delivered, and it was a subscription package. And so her son called the company and was like, "Hi, we need to cancel this subscription. It's under my mother's name. Here's her name." And they're like, "Oh, she called a few days ago to cancel it. It's already been canceled." And he's like, "That's impossible. My mother passed away a couple weeks ago." And they're like, "Well, I don't know what to tell you. Like, she called a couple days ago. She canceled it. And her reason for cancellation that is in the log was she said that she's recently moved and will no longer need it," or something like that.
That story is wild.
I have chills again.
Yeah.
She moved to a different plane. She cannot receive the package. Please cancel the subscription. But I was like, "Oh, I so appreciate this." And this is like such a motherly thing to do, to be like, "Oh, well, I don't want my kids to have to deal with all this stuff. I'll cancel my own subscriptions."
Right.
Makes a ghost call.
It's wild.
It's so interesting. Like, I'm fascinated. People who have like a voicemail from somebody who's passed.
Yeah.
Like, there's just all kinds of, or like text message, or there's even like like computer things that have happened, like an email from someone, or something prints on a printer, or like just all kinds of things like that. I'm so fascinated by it.
Yeah, even like the Malaysia flight that had gone missing, there's all of those. I guess this goes into like the conspiracy theory side of things, but like there were so many loved ones who, after the plane had basically like gone missing, had received phone calls or text messages, or like had some sort of connection with the cellular devices that should have been off. There's just, it is so strange, all the stuff that happens like that. Like, it makes me think of some of the tragedies that have happened, like the plane. And like, we hear so much of it when it comes to 9/11 too. There's so many paranormal stories, people getting messages from their loved ones through phone calls, through various means that, like once you realize what happened, it would be impossible for that to occur. So
Well, and it's also just like with the evolving technology in our like daily lives, I think there will just be more and more of these instances. I was listening to a story, I think it was like on NPR or something like that, but I guess like Marilyn Monroe had gotten like a metal cap on one of her teeth once, and she kept hearing like voices, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, she's gone crazy." But it literally was like picking up radio frequencies. Her like filling
Oh
was
my
picking up,
gosh.
and it was just like the specific metal was picking up the local radio. And when she would go past it, she would literally hear it in her head.
That is crazy.
I know. And it's not really paranormal, but it's like odd. And I'm like, well, what else can happen with frequencies intercrossing with other technology?
Well, so many stories are so crazy with her too, and like with the CIA being involved, and the Kennedys and everything like that. Like, I'm surprised people aren't saying that it was some sort of like CIA implant or something that was like tracking her or listening to her or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some subreddit out there that is saying that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, I just have some roundup questions for you guys.
Okay.
Okay. Scariest paranormal place you've ever been?
My head?
Oh, I was gonna say my house. I think I'd say the Conjuring house.
Yeah, that was scary. It was also our first paranormal investigation, so I think we were just apprehensive and nervous too. Yeah.
Okay. And your favorite paranormal tool to use besides yourself?
I have a pendulum that is haunted by a trickster spirit that a listener gave to us, and I have just fallen in love with using it and like communicate. His name is Daniel, and he's just like fun and always helpful.
I like using dowsing rods because you can ask yes no questions, but also I feel like in the times that we've really been stumped during a paranormal investigation, I've found myself defaulting to say like, "Can you just point to where you want us to go?" And then it's helpful because it points in the right direction. So it feels kind of like a very basic tool for when my intuition, or when I'm just like not understanding what to do. It's just like, okay, can you be like the most clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say is the best evidence you've ever captured?
We caught a picture. I think we mentioned this to you when you were on our show last year.
Oh, the New Orleans one?
Yes, the ghost penis. We were on my bachelorette. I'm no longer married, but when I was before, we went to New Orleans for my bachelorette, and we went to Lafitte's blacksmith shop on a ghost tour, and they were like, stop and take a picture in front of the fireplace because a lot of people catch an image of Lafitte.
Jean Lafitte, who was like a kind of pirate guy who,
Yeah.
it's a bar now.
Right.
But there's a fireplace that's open on either side, so you can see completely through it, and it's non-operable. They don't turn the fireplace on. But yeah, when people take photos, it'll be like 1 in 100 photos or something. There'll be like maybe a face in it.
So Corinne and my friend Scout were sitting in front of the fireplace, and I'm just like snapping a bunch of photos. We continue on with the night. And then the next morning, I'm looking through all my photos because I had taken so many at the ghost tour. And like, they say to look at them the next day to see if you caught anything. And there is a series of photos. 2 of them are taken at the exact same minute. It's like 10:14 p.m. And one of them is a live photo and the other is not. And in the live photo you play, there's nothing there. But when you go to like the regular photo, you zoom in behind, and I think we sent you the picture, did we?
Yeah.
But if you zoom in behind Scout's like nose, there is like what you can only describe as a phallic penis, like a ghost penis.
It
I've
does. It looks
seen
like a
it.
glowing blue
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
funny.
But
It's funny.
yeah, that was the really only piece of evidence that I think is like photo evidence that we captured together,
Yeah.
which got us in the tabloids. That's pretty cool. I think my personal favorite piece of evidence is from my childhood home. My dog Wrinkles had passed away, and he was like my soul dog. And after he passed away for many years, my family would still hear like the clickety clickety of his nails on the wood
Aw.
floor and just like feel his presence and know that he
Yeah.
was there. And in our living room, he used to stretch out on this one carpet and like create nail marks and stuff in the carpet. And it was maybe a year or a year and a half after he passed away. My brother was still in high school. I was in college. And my brother sends me a picture because he walked out into the living room and there were all the claw marks across the carpet as if Wrinkles had
Aw.
just stretched out.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
That is
that.
cute.
Do you guys carry anything to protect yourselves?
Black obsidian to the Conjuring house. And I did take that a few places with me.
Yeah. Otherwise, no. But now I'm questioning if I should.
It's a badass energy.
I don't either. Like I said before, I have this like just
Yeah.
demeanor when I go in that I'm just here for the experience and then I'm done.
Yeah, we always set intentions, especially like anytime we're going to actively engage with the paranormal, we set intentions and like either out loud or in our head and just make it very clear, set boundaries with whatever spirits are around and like ask for protection from our spirit guides or whoever's around.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think another thing we do that has been helpful too is like we set boundaries with the spirits, but we let them set them with us too. So it's like if you say something or you make a request, we're not going to keep pushing. We're just going to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paranormal place you haven't been yet but are dying to go to.
Do we have the same? Waverly Hills.
Me too. Maybe we need to meet there and do something.
That is where we should go.
We should.
It's
Okay.
number one because everybody has such
mean-
great experiences there.
It feels impossible to walk
Yeah.
in without some sort of paranormal experience there, right?
Or like a ghost photo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had them
Okay.
on the podcast before and they seem so cool too.
We got to go.
I'm
Yeah.
suddenly nervous.
But excited. A nervous excitement.
You're nervous because you know like this is going to happen.
Right?
Yes.
We're finally going to go there because I'm so scared of encountering the creeper, but I want to go to Waverly Hills so badly.
So badly.
I want to see the creeper because I've heard so many people talk about it. I'm like, I got to see this.
Yeah. All right. Just like, I'm sure we'll feel it too. Because they say all the other spirits are afraid of it. So they like flee.
Mm-hmm. They usually warn you too, apparently. Yeah. So hopefully we do get a warning.
Okay. Well, now we need to do that. Let's do that.
Yes. I'm totally down. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your stories with us. Tell everyone listening how they can follow you on social media, listen to your podcast, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, we're 2 Girls, 1 Ghost everywhere. We're on YouTube. We are wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on Instagram, TikTok, the places. Yeah.
All the places.
Around the interwebs. Yeah. And we're so excited. We'll have Bridget, we'll have you on our show to talk about your paranormal experiences as well.
Yeah, I can't wait. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Ghost Bunny Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on my spooky adventures, and I look forward to sharing a new ghost story with you guys each week. Please subscribe to our podcast so you're always the first to know when a new episode is out, and follow us on social media at Ghost Bunny Podcast on Instagram and at Ghost Bunny Podcast on YouTube. Bye, guys.
Bye.